Hi there, I'm Rosie from Knitting on Cloud 9 and today I'm going to show you how to make these really super cute, chunky Christmas pudding pom-poms from things that you can find in your house. You mainly just need some brown yarn, some cream yarn and some bits and pieces of fabric in these colours. Okay, let's go. Okay, so in order to make the pom-poms, what we need is, if you've got some pom-pom makers at home, you can use the pom-pom makers. This size, this is a clover, this is the biggest one, and it can make you the giant pom-pom, this size. Or the smaller ones are really good as well, or make lots of combinations of sizes. But what I'm going to do today is demonstrate how you make a traditional pom-pom just from things that you have in the house. So lots of boxes going around at the moment, so grab yourself some cardboard. I will demonstrate this in a wee minute. You then need some scissors, some glue, some brown yarn, some cream yarn, it's cream or white, and some scraps of green and red fabric. If you've got some little pom-poms for berries, then that would be great, but if not, then just some scraps of red and green fabric is perfect. So in order to make the pom-poms, we need to use a template and we need to make a frame for our pom-poms out of cardboard. Now, to get a big giant one, a sellotape roll is a good size if you draw round the inner, or a can. Everybody's got a can in their cupboard, so go for a can. And then we need a slightly smaller circular top. This is a vitamin supplement bottle, but actually this one works really well. So diameter wise, this is approximately 8 centimetres and this is approximately 3 centimetres. So you need about 1 centimetre to wind your wool round. Okay, so we need to make our cardboard templates. So get yourself a felt tip pen or a Sharpie and just draw round 2 circles in your cardboard. And I'm going to use the smallest end. Okay, so now we need to cut these out, and this can be hard on your hands actually. So I'm just gonna make my cardboard slightly smaller. Okay, so that's me got my 2 cardboard templates and we hold them back to back. They don't have to be perfect and that's good enough. Okay, so now we need to start with the brown yarn. Now to get the brown and white effect, we're going to cover half of the pom-pom in brown yarn and half of it in cream yarn. So the speedy way to do pom-poms is to take your yarn, any thickness will do. Use up all your scrap bits and pieces. I usually try to use it double stranded and that makes it quicker. Okay, now to grasp your wool on in the first instance, you could use a bit of sellotape to grip that wool on, or you can just start winding. Okay, and it will grip on. Okay, so you're using your wool and you're going all the way around. So I'm only going to cover the half, roughly half, maybe slightly more than half of my template with brown. When I'm going to leave that bit blank and then I'm going to go back the other way to fill it up. Now if you want to add a few maybe speckles into your pom-pom, then you could take some little bits of contrast and you could maybe use some jute string from home maybe, and just put in maybe just little bits here and there Okay, I'm just going to use this slightly contrast yarn. It's just going to create a wee effect, maybe like, I don't know, raisins or currants that might be in your Christmas pudding. You don't need to do this. And it's just going to be very random. Okay, I need more brown. Just tighten everything up. You can stick this down with sellotape if you feel like you can't hold on to all these fibres. But the hole needs to be quite filled up. So we need quite a bit more winding of the brown. Okay, so I've done 2 full rounds of double strands on the brown. I'm going to add a bit of cream in now. Now, again, you can just use any cream that you've got. If you happen to have some of this wool roving, which is a wee bit like cotton wool, this happens to make it really, really soft and fluffy. So you can buy it in the Hobbycraft and different craft shops. I have some. I have a wee kit that I can make up for materials if you wanted to do this with the exact materials that I'm using. If you don't have the roving, then just use what you've got in the house, and it's exactly the same. This stuff is just wool that hasn't been spun yet, and we can take a nice length of it and add it into our pom-pom. It makes it grow really quickly because it's thicker than usual. And you see how that's filling up that wee space that I've left there really nicely. Okay, so I guess you can see what's happening here in terms of colour placement, meaning that when we cut the pom-pom, it's going to give you the brown body of the pudding with the cream on top. Okay, so I am just going to use this lovely fluffy cream roving that I have, but obviously you can use any yarn that you can find in the house. Any white, any cream is going to be perfect too. Okay, I'm just going to put a tiny bit more on. This bit happens to be lying, so I'm going to add this in. And then usually if you think about your Christmas pudding, your Christmas pudding is not usually sort of half and half cream and brown. It's usually a bit more brown than it is cream. So once I'm happy that I've got enough cream, I'm going to go back to brown again. And I'm actually going to cover the whole. I'm just going to use brown now for the rest of it. I might add in a tiny amount of speckles, but each side should be roughly the right thickness, the same thickness, sorry, not the right thickness. So I'm going to have to go round my brown section again to get it up to the same thickness as my cream, because my cream roving is much thicker than my brown yarn. If you're using a pom-pom maker, then it's generally a bit quicker because you don't have to keep, pulling your thread right through the hole, because you can wind it round and you can just work on one side at a time. So if you were using a pom-pom maker and one side of your pom-pom is in cream, if you're doing what I'm doing and making sure that your cream is a bit less than half and half on the pom-pom, then you would add some extra brown on top of your cream on the side of your pom-pom maker that you've used cream. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm aiming for. It's getting really hard now to squeeze the thread through the centre. It's getting really small, my centre hole. So I think I'm just going to stop there and show you what to do next. So we're going to cut the pom-pom, but before we do, you want to sort of choose a really strong yarn. I'm going to choose cream because I'm going to have it coming out the top, and it'll match the cream to hang it with. So I'm going to have a double length of this. This is really strong yarn, so if I pull it, it's not going to break. I've got it laid out in front of me ready because this can be the very dodgy bit of your pom-pom, whereby if you don't hold on to it really carefully, the whole thing can fall apart. And what you're doing, if you remember, is you're trying to you're cutting along this outside edge, and you're going to eventually find, you're going to be able, once you've snipped into it a little bit, to get your scissors inside the two cardboard templates that are in here somewhere. So you are definitely going to need an adult, and it's good to have a couple of pairs of scissors handy because some of them are good and some of them are not good for cutting pom-poms. So you really do need a good sharp pair of scissors. I am just trying to get in to the center, and actually these scissors are not good, and in typical fashion, don't know if everybody's the same as me, but I have amazing dressmaking scissors and I can't find them right now, which would be perfect for this. Anyway, okay, so it gets a bit easier. So now I can see the cardboard. I've managed to get a way in. So if you can make a wee space, get your scissors in between the two bits of cardboard, and then just slowly, it's hard in your hands, but just take your time and keep sort of progressing through. You can do it wee chunks at a time. If you push your scissors through and then cut that wee chunk. Okay, so we're through. That was a hard bit. Okay, so you can see what happens when you cut, the wool sort of opens outwards. So the extra layer of brown that I put on top of my cream merges in with the brown below, and all I've got is cream on top. So that has worked perfectly. So be really careful at this point, because don't take the cardboard off. What you now need to do is put your tying yarn round the brown bit in between the cardboard, right, and all the way through to the top, to the cream section. And again, as it'll help here, really strong double knot here, super strong. Tie it a few times if you can, you know, a few extra knots. Okay, and then really carefully, without cutting the string, you might want to use your fingers if you can, but if not, just gently snip the cardboard one side, pull that out, snip the other side, pull that out, to reveal a really, give it a wee puff. Okay, you've got a rather misshapen pom-pom possibly at this stage. So at this point, just take a couple of wee minutes just to trim, give it a wee haircut, get the shape looking good. Oh, I really need to find my lovely dressmaking scissors. So you can see the wee speckly bits where I added in my my different coloured yarn. It just gives a wee extra effect. Okay, so I think we're looking a bit more Christmas pudding, and you can see how, you know, the cream just sits on the top. It's got its wee ups and downs which you would have if your cream was dripping over your pudding. So it looks really quite delicious. So just take your time and get it how you want it, haircut wise. And then we can add some holly in a minute. Okay, right, let me get rid of all this fluff. So there you have your Christmas pudding. Now you can use some glue or you can sew, whatever you are happy with. If you have some pom-poms, then these are ideal for little holly berries. If you don't worry, just find some red fabric and some green fabric. Felt is ideal because it doesn't fray, but if you don't have felt, then just find some fabric. Now to make the holly first, I'll show you what I do. You can draw a little holly leaf on a piece of paper and then cut round it, but try doing it my way, freehand, with a pair of scissors. So I've got a nice little square of felt, and all I'm going to do is, it's almost like I'm holding it in a kind of diagonal, sorry, it's a rectangle, and I'm holding it from the two diagonal facing corners. So I'm going to start at the bottom, I'm going to put my scissors in, and I'm going to cut out a little crescent shape like that. So there's just a little semicircle being cut out of the holly. And then I'm going to put my scissors in right next, making the jag on the holly, and I'm going to do that exactly the same. So 2 little crescents. So keep doing that. And then once you've done it a few times, I've got 3 here, you could do 4. Then the last one, you're sort of cutting it into a peak because you're trying to go over to do the other side, right? So it's almost like a triangle. And then down the side of the holly, you're doing the same thing. So you're cutting your semicircle, and you're cutting your wee semicircle, and you're cutting your wee semicircle. Okay? And you can just sort of trim the top just to make it a little bit sharper if you need to, any wee adjustments. Okay, so that's okay, it's a wee bit of holly. So that would go on here, and I can make another one of them, just a wee rough one. 1, 2, 3 into the center. And then again down the other side, 1, 2, 3, and then down. Okay, so that is fine for the second one. So that can sit like that. You can sew them together, and you could sew everything right through your cord. That's what I tend to do, but if it's easier and quicker, then you can glue, but it might not be amazing. And then you can just cut some little circles with the red fabric to make your little berries. Okay, it's quite small. I might just make one slightly. Yep. Okay, so I'll try and use my Pritt stick for quickness just now. So I'll put a little bit of Pritt on my felt so that I can stick my holly leaves together. And then if I put that on the back, put some glue on the back, press it onto my pom-pom. That's my wee tiny berry. Another wee tiny berry. Okay, and there you have a Christmas pudding pom-pom.